Well, thank you everyone for coming out. This is going to be our second installment of a series of talks regarding sport nutrition and how we can set up our athletes for success. Now, last time we spoke about the preparation for and recovery from training. So now we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition during training and during competition. So we're going to talk about three things: that idea of what is optimal health, just a bit of review from last time. And we'll also talk about what we need to do during training as well as during competition. So if you remember our triangle, there are three parts of optimal health. So we're looking at training, which is taken care of by our coaching staff; proper nutrition, which we're going to talk about today, and we'll again do a brief discussion about what supplementation is. But if we achieve optimal health, then we'll be able to achieve our optimal performance. Now, these three aspects really play into each other, that even if we have optimal training, if our nutrition isn't on point, then our training and our optimal health and performance can suffer. Similarly, if we don't focus on giving our bodies enough micronutrients through supplementation and healthy eating, then again our training and our health or our nutrition won't be as effective. So it's really important to think about all three of these aspects and seeing how we can manage each of them individually to work together so that we can perform at the highest level that we can. So proper nutrition. Again, we're going to talk about three aspects. One being the right combination and quality of macronutrients. Two is going to be what time that we're going to be ingesting these during training and during competition. And then lastly, we're going to talk about the amount and really how much should we be fueling ourselves. So as a reminder, what is the number one goal of why we eat? Fuel. That's right. We want to fuel ourselves, okay? There are all the other things. It tastes great. It's social. Absolutely. But the number one reason why we eat is to fuel our bodies, okay? And during this seminar, we'll talk about strategies and tips and how to schedule this within our competition day. So if you remember last time, we spoke about a glycemic index or a GI of a carbohydrate. Now, this is simply a measurement of how quickly our body can break down and use carbohydrates. It's on a scale of approximately 0 to 100, give or take. So we have low GI foods. Now, these are the ones that are digested slowly. They're low. Now, as you can see on the graph on the right side, we have a gradual increase in blood sugar levels, and then it tapers off with a low glycemic index food. So this is great to fuel ourselves during the day. Our body stores glucose and other sugars as energy within our cells, as muscle and liver glycogen. So this is great for maximizing that. However, we also have the other foods that are high glycemic index or high GI. Think of these as high octane. They break down quickly and our bodies can use them very quickly. Now, like we mentioned last time, this isn't necessarily good or bad, but we're going to make sure that we set our bodies up to use these different types of food to match our body's needs in terms of when we compete, when we're recovering, what's the intensity of our racing, etc. So we're going to be using this terminology throughout the presentation. So a bit closer look at this graph. If we think during training, we're really focused on this hour and a half maximum at this point in our training programs leading up to state and the national titles. So a lot of our food that we're going to talk about during training is going to be those high glycemic index foods, those carbohydrates. Now, when we start looking at a long competition day, state, for example, for the seniors is more or less 2.5 days, and it's similar for our juniors. And then Aussies, we get up to 6 days of competition. So with all of that, we really want to make sure we have a balance of the different types of carbohydrates that we ingest, as well as balance those with our other macronutrients. So we're going to be relating to this graph throughout the presentation. Now, we talked about that first item, the type of macronutrients. During training, we're focused on carbohydrates. So we're looking at things like those Elouera or goo gels with some water, okay? That'll give you 20 to 30 grams of carbs right off the bat in a single gel, okay? Electrolyte drinks are also great options. So things that we're looking at, again, goo, Elouera, Powerade, Gatorade, any of these powders that you can get at the grocery that are electrolyte and carbohydrate based are going to be best during training. Now, the reason for that is that we want a spike in our energy, okay? If we look at those low GI foods, that's going to be a bit more of a gradual increase, and we don't necessarily benefit from it within our training session. It just takes too long to break down those foods and use them. So we want to give our bodies what it needs when it needs. So we're going to jack up our blood sugar levels in that kind of hour block of our hour-and-a-half training session. All right, this will give us that much to get to the end of our board, ski, swim, run session, whatever it may be. So again, we're looking at gels or rehydration, carbohydrate, electrolyte type drinks. Pretty straightforward. So now we're talking about the timing. Well, really in a 90-minute training session, we want to hit it at the 60-minute point. Okay? Again, if we look at our graph here, we can see that if we ingest at kind of that time zero, we'll get that spike in, that 15 minutes, and our body will be able to readily use that right away, okay? So this is an example. If you get off the water and coach is explaining the next set, and you know that it's getting towards the end, pop one of those gels and just flush it down with some water. If your body can really only take half of a gel, that's fine. Just that little bit extra oomph will bring you towards the end of your training session. Okay? But again, we're looking at longer training sessions, kind of that 90 minutes. If you're looking at an hour training session, well, your body generally already has enough stored up energy to use into the end of that training session. And having one of the gels or something, it just might not be enough time for your body to break it down and use it. Okay? So again, we're focusing on this time frame of where our training session is. Now, in terms of the amount, so like we said, we get about an hour into our training session. We know we have 20 minutes to half an hour left. All right, let's toss it back. Well, how much? All right, looking at the research, generally, we're looking at 20 to 30 grams of sugar. Now, just so happens that any of those Elouera goo type gels, they're going to have everything we need. So again, they're just a couple of examples of what we can keep with us to have during a training session. These companies done their research. They know that this is how much carbohydrates somebody needs when they're exercising for that length of time. So serving is already there, no problem. Simple, down it, good to go for the rest of your training session. Okay? So with all of that, now we got to start talking about what do we do during competition, right? Because it's such a big part towards our performance. Now, that kind of lull that you feel about 3 p.m. on day one of a 2-day competition, if you haven't set yourself up for success and fueled your body effectively, you're going to get that crash. And that's not just going to affect the events on the last day or last bit of that Saturday. Your Sunday, it's going to be a struggle, okay? So now we're going to talk about how we structured the right combination type of carbs, time, and amount throughout a day, all right? So main thing is going to be the timing of our fueling. And this is going to be a big takeaway for all of you parents and athletes about how to structure your day when you're approaching a multi-day competition. So if you remember this figure from last time, really we're sitting into this between 1 hour and 2 hours before every event or earlier. Okay, so we're really getting ready all the time to race, warming up, cooling down, refueling, rehydrating constantly. Well, if we break it down to a systematic way, then we'll be able to plan exactly what we need to do. And if things change, if the timetables change, there's a switch in surf condition, we can adapt to that because we already have kind of a blueprint. Okay? So what we're looking at is kind of mid-GI carbs. We're going to talk about a combination of high and low GI carbs to make sure we maintain our energy levels. We still want a bit of fat, and we'll give you guys examples of what that is and what we can eat. And then, as always, we want to make sure we maintain quality protein. The importance of protein is that it helps with transportation of the sugar floating around in our blood into our muscle cells so that they can use it as energy. So protein is so important. It also really helps with rehydrating all of our cells. So to live on just fruit, snakes, gummies all day, you're really making it difficult for your body to stay hydrated, repair itself, and keep your fuel levels up, okay? So examples of this, we've got pieces of fruit, banana, apple. We got, again, a young Kai Hurst up on that Nutri-Grain box. These kind of things are great throughout the day of competition. And again, we'll give you more specific examples as we move forward. So the other part of it, for example, we know that, okay, well, the board race is supposed to go at 10 a.m. Well, let's get ready for it, right? You'll be able to set yourself up. Now, we're looking at what do we do less than an hour or less than 30 minutes before our race starts? Because again, sometimes we could be standing and marshalling, and you could either race 2 minutes from now or 25 minutes from now. So you want to make sure that you keep your body ready to go, and that includes your nutrition. So if you know you have a bit more time, again, we're looking at the mid to high or the mid GI carbs, few fats, quality protein. When you're getting closer, you want high glycemic index carbs, okay? And again, same examples that we spoke about before. So talking about the amount, well, we're going to refer back to that coach.ca sport nutrition handout that we spoke about last time. And this was sent out to all the families from the Surf Club. This will be posted again on the Maple Leaf Performance Facebook page for you to access just so you have all the information. But we're looking at this, if you looked at less than 1 hour and less than 30 minutes, great examples up there, okay? A fruit smoothie, for example, with a bit of juice, a bit of milk, banana, and a few fruits. Or having fruit or vegetable juice as a drink or a sports drink. So again, refer back to this one, this handout, because it's a great guide of giving you examples. But as we know, athletes are finicky. They don't like this, they don't like that. I only eat this, I only drink that. So let's look at a bunch of other options. So the principles that we're going to be following, solid food is better, okay? Gels are great, drinks and electrolyte drinks are great, but your body can't live off them. When you can, eat solid food, okay? Your body digests it in a more normal way and then can use it more effectively. We're also looking at food that's easily digestible. So this takes planning, okay? I always say to my athletes, never change your regular routine on competition day. That is what leading up is for, okay? So plan. Have a bit of these foods around before a training session, partway through a training session. If you're doing a double in a day, play with the different types of food that you have available that you like eating and see what your body can take. It's always up to the individual athlete to figure out what their gut can exercise on when it's full or partially full. Take a lunch break. We'll talk about this in a schedule and activity that we have coming up, but it is so important that you take that lunch break. If you're going to go talk to the cute guy or cute girl on the beach, at least have a sandwich with you or some sort of lunch. But we get so wrapped up in the social aspect of competitions and sport, and it's great, don't get me wrong, but you have to make sure that you fuel yourself, okay? Lastly, keep refueling after lunch. As we mentioned, you don't want to run into that 2-3 p.m. crash, okay? Always have a water bottle on you at all times. This is so important. Doesn't matter where you are. You're walking from the tent to marshalling, have your water bottle. You're going to pick up your craft, have your water bottle. When you're racing, put it down with your beach shirt, your shorts, your sunnies, right there. You get off the water, check in, put your craft down, you have your water bottle, okay? It is so important to stay hydrated, especially with the hot February we've had. I imagine that March and even into April are going to be the same thing. So you need to stay hydrated throughout these days. Okay? So with these principles, let's start talking about different foods. So we got 3 categories: a pick-me-up, a replenisher, and then lunch. All right? So going off the GI makeup of the foods that we spoke about, we've got our high GI foods, high glycemic index foods. Applesauce, gels, strawberry, blueberry, blackberry, whatever berry, melons, everything from watermelons to honeydew, those kind of things. Banana I kind of put in parentheses because it is high in fiber, just like an actual apple. So it is a little bit heavier on the system. So figure out what works for you. I know that I can do a quarter of a banana and 100 mils of a sports drink 10 minutes before I get on the line for a board race or an Ironman race. And that just works for me. It might not work for everyone else's gut. So find out what works for you, okay? So these are kind of less than 30-minute categories. Again, that pick-me-up, that high-octane, high GI foods that we need to give us that bit of extra push, okay? When we have a little bit more time, that kind of hour, 45 minutes even, we're looking at our replenishers. Now, if you see these foods, they generally still have carbohydrates, but they have a little bit of extra protein. So the peanut butter, the Nutri-Meal from USANA, any of the USANA bars that we'd mentioned we had on display at the last seminar. Cereal, again, it's a little bit of a mix of protein, and I'm talking about good cereal, like the Nutri-Grain and those. Don't go for the sugary, junky stuff. Have a look at the label, and you'll see in the nutrition facts, look for a good balance of carbohydrates and protein. Really, any cereal with protein, it's going to be better than most of them. We're also looking at cheese and HBEs, hard-boiled eggs. Those things are great, fantastic. Throw 2 of them in your bag per day, and if you don't eat them, that's fine. They'll still be good tomorrow, okay? These are things that, again, have a little bit of fat, some protein, and they'll be able to get you through the day more effectively and keep you rehydrated. Yogurt is another good one. Keep it in your esky. Nuts and protein balls. Now I put an asterisk beside that because we're going to have a little bit of a demonstration at the end, and we have a recipe to pass on to you all that have a good balance of protein, carbohydrate, and fat in mini balls that, again, quick, easy, great snacks, okay? As we mentioned, this is going to keep you hydrated. It'll give you that fuel and repair so that you don't get that 2 or 3 p.m. crash and you can finish the entire carnival strong, okay? Now looking in that lunch category, we spoke about this at the last seminar. We're looking for meals. Now, the portion sizes are going to have to be conducive to your bodies, right? You might not want to have 2 full half-a kilo heavy sandwiches in the middle of a carnival. But if you cut it up into half, maybe you have half when you have a good-sized break and then the other half when you have a longer break. We're looking at pasta salad, any rice and vegetable stir-fry type mix, sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are phenomenal. They've got a steady GI index, glycemic index. They have healthy fats, and they're great for maintaining energy, and they taste delicious. Steam some of these, fry them up, put a little bit of salt and pepper, and stick them in a Tupperware container. These are going to be the things that will make sure that you can fight through the entire carnival strong. These are your keys to success for nutrition during competition. So now that we've gone over the background and the bit of the science and what's going on in our body, we've also spoke about different options that fit into these different types of categories. Well, now let's start talking about how to make up a schedule and when we should be eating all of these, okay? Now, before we get into that, I know what everyone's thinking, oh, I'll just grab some snakes, no problem. Timing, perfect, all the time. Not a bad time for snakes or gummies. Well, if you want to focus on optimal performance, might not be the best strategy. So we're looking at these pick-me-ups instead of snakes, lollies, chocolate, twisties, nerds, biscuits, Tim Tams, all the delicious stuff. The reason why it's delicious is because it's very full of very simple carbohydrates and it's bad for you. Our bodies have this thing that things that are bad for you taste great. So let's focus on the great tasting, healthy alternatives so that we don't get into all of this. It's junk. You see it clutter up the screen, it'll clutter up your arteries, your gut. This is what's heavy. This is what's going to slow you down. Yeah, you feel great 5-10 minutes after eating some gummies. You're gonna feel horrible 3 minutes after that, okay? Grant Wilkinson had a mention at our last seminar that when he raced in the Uncle Toby series in the 90s, he had some of his fellow athletes walk around with flat Coke and all of these simple carbohydrates and things. And they said it was great for one race. The problem is when you get on this sugar high, you got to stay there. Because when you stop staying there, when you stop eating lollies all day, you're going to crash. Absolutely crash. That can happen mid-race, on the start line, when you're sprinting up the beach for a finish. This isn't being melodramatic. You know, you could see it in an athlete's posture. They're coming in on that last wave and their body fails them. And you know that when you get off that board, the person beside you is going to beat you up the beach. So again, we have alternatives now, options instead of these kind of things. Okay? So we're going to go through a schedule about what should we do, when should we eat, what should we eat. Now, this is looking at our typicals, maybe Lucky Galea or Nathan Neal Nugget, what their state day 2 on Saturday might look like, okay? So I've highlighted all the different events that those athletes might compete in. So what we're going to look at is highlighting, based on event, where are their breaks. So if you look highlighted in red, these are going to be their bigger breaks. Okay? And if to get an idea, the top left is the first event in the morning and it runs down and then goes up to the top and it comes down. So your red, again, highlighted are going to be your bigger breaks. These are opportunities to fuel with a bit more substantial food. Okay? So we'll go through this together. Starting in the left 2 columns, they're going to have a great breakfast. They're going to take all the information from our preparation for and recovery from seminar, and they're going to get up early enough to have a full proper breakfast to give them fuel for the entire day. They're going to hit the first race, which is the male board relay final, and they're going to rock it. They're going to hit it, they're going to come away with the medal, and we'll be pumped for them. Then they've got a little bit of a break during the semifinal for the U17 board relay final. Then they're going to back it up in the men's open board relay final. Now, these 2 events are close enough to breakfast that they can probably get through without worrying about eating anything in between. It might slow them down at this point. But after you've come off 2 high-intense races, you need to refuel. Now, looking ahead, since they've got the ski relay coming up, we're just going to get a piece of fruit or a bar. Okay? This has the bars with the Nutrimeal one. They have a little bit of protein, but a good amount of carbs. Fruit, if their gut can't take something so heavy, have a piece of melon, have a couple of slices of orange, get some water in you. Okay? As you move down, we're going to go through 2 ski lay races. Again, these are pretty high intensity, and there's not a lot of break, because if you look, the semifinal for the U17 male ski relay, just going to be 2 heats, right? So yeah, we're probably looking at 20 minutes, half an hour, but not really that much time, right? Now, when we start getting down to the U17 male heats, I would recommend half a shake. So this is 200 milliliters of water with however much shake of powder that your body can take. Reason why is that you're probably going to have 4, 5, 6 heats, so you have a bit more time, right? And that'll give your body the opportunity to digest all of that. Then you're going to go through your own open male ski heats. Well, those probably aren't going to be super high intense. Go at it, but it won't be maximal effort. Drop a goo gel as you're waiting for the U17 male board semifinal, and then it's time for your race. Now from there, we've had enough food and refueling that will probably make it through to the quarterfinals of the open male ski. No problem. Then we get into our first red section. So again, before we get there, you can see how the morning is structured with continual snacking at different intervals when there are a bit bigger breaks. Okay? So it's important to highlight those for your athlete on the program. So then we're going to start getting to a bigger break. Well, this is a great opportunity for a sandwich because the surf races, they're going to take a bit longer. So have solid food. Then we run through the rest of the events of the morning, and we'll probably be up and around lunch near the top there, maybe early afternoon. Now, as you can see, there's a big gap, 4 events to run between when our athlete has to compete. So take that opportunity to have a lunch. Again, pasta salad, some stir fry, sweet potato, those kind of things. Then we're coming into the rest of the day, and same principles as the morning, continuing to fuel. If you remember our goo gel and our applesauce, they're our high glycemic index. It's going to jack our athlete back up. If you take a bit of protein, it'd be a good idea to put it in there. This is a very simple example of a schedule during competition. Now, I got this idea from a fellow national team member in Canada for life-saving, Emily Verreau. She was a bronze medalist in the Open Women's Beach Sprint at the 2014 Rescue National Team Championships. So she's fast, and she knows how to race, how to train, how to recover. And she was the best person I've ever met at scheduling when and what she was going to eat. I think she's lost beach flags 5 times in Canada in the past decade. Similar to the beach sprint, she's lost 3 times on Canadian soil. So she was very good at ensuring that she maximized her performance through this kind of planning and nutrition. So what we're going to do now, we have already spoke about a few principles. We have a group activity, so this is going to be interactive. You will all get the chance right now to set up your own schedule. So a few principles we're going to follow. Create a meal plan for state champs. I want you to have in mind what you're going to eat and why you're going to eat it. And make sure you structure in a lunch break. Okay? So around the room, we have a couple of different pieces of paper and pens. There are about 18 of us here. I want you to break into 5 groups. Okay? So sit down around one of the tables with a piece of paper and start planning this out. I'm going to scroll back to the slide that had description of what different foods fall into each category.
In this part of the seminar, groups were tasked with creating a meal plan for a female athlete competing in multiple events throughout one day of competition. They had to agree on when and what the athlete was going to fuel her body with. They also had to justify why they chose the foods and snacks in their plan. A copy of the schedule they worked off of is available in the description below.
So it was quite good. And let's actually have an idea. So this is morning.
So this is a schedule that we all just went over in our group activities. As we mentioned, the highlighted events are the events that our female athlete will be competing in. So you can see a couple of natural breaks. For example, up here on the left, we've got 3 events. One is a semifinal. So that's a good break to have something a bit more substantial. Now the challenge with this athlete is that she's going to be competing throughout the day. You got the Open Women's Female Taplin semis, and then the U19 Female Taplin final, and really there aren't a lot of big breaks. Now I saw a couple of groups, they highlighted this down here as a good break, and I completely agree with that. So we'll put it out to all of you. Where would you recommend that we start our nutrition throughout the day? Breakfast, I love it, fantastic. Before we get to the beach, before we start our warm-up, before any of this, breakfast, 100%. All right, so with the table that was in this corner here, where would you then put the first snack of the day?
We put it at where there's the 3 race break.
So in and around here?
Yeah.
And what would you recommend that this athlete eats there?
We put in a replenisher, so like a half a Nutrimeal shake perhaps.
Fantastic, great idea. The Nutrimeal shake has a good balance of carbohydrates as well as some protein, so start rebuilding muscle, help with transporting the energy into the muscle cells, as well as help with rehydration, absolutely. How about this group down at the front here? Where would you, after the Open Women's Taplin semifinal, where would you then put in your next step of nutrition?
We did under 17 female speed qualifying, and we could go bar, a decent bar or a slice of fruit.
I think that's a great idea. You're going to have 4 heats going through for that quarterfinal. So you have a good solid break, probably not enough for a meal, but you're going to have enough for a bar, for example, that has, again, that balance of protein and carbohydrates, absolutely. And what about after that? How about the group that was at the back?
I'll just jump ahead. First two races are back to back. It'd be worthwhile having a really short high GI snack just after that, those two double up races.
Very good point. So if we're looking back at the top here, the comment was, well, with back-to-back races, do you want a high glycemic index food there? Yeah, why not? If your body can take it, and if that's what you need to step up and really attack that second semifinal, that makes sense.
In regards to the two gap down the bottom left, above the female ski semi-final, that's probably in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the next big gaps are probably after lunch. So like 2, 3, maybe 2 in the afternoon, so a bit late.
Yeah.
So we put lunch down in that 2 gap, down the bottom left.
Great example. So putting lunch down here, it'll probably coincide with about noon. That would be a good idea. Now, again, it'll be up to that individual athlete. What can we get? What can we take? 100%. Yeah. Now, looking at the latter half of the day, how about the group that was at the round table?
Yeah, I think we also had lunch there in that gap bottom left-hand side, so we're hoping that it's sort of given us enough fuel to get through a fair few races, and we actually we put a bit of a pick-me-up at the gap where the 17 female board race is, so some berries and some melons, so after the female board race, if you like, before the open female board race.
Great idea. You got a back-to-back race here. You want to have some fueling right in this point to get ready for these two races, 100%. From there, really the rest of the day, it's a bit easier, right? We're probably going to have a high glycemic index with a bit of protein here to get ready for this semifinal. But then you've got 3 finals, and they're all surf swim races, so they'll take a bit longer to have a little bit of extra food. So it was mentioned maybe half of your Nutri-Meals shake goes in the morning. Well, maybe you would have your second half here. A couple of nuts, a couple of pieces of fruit, ready to go for your U19 female ski final. Have another high GI food in this break here to finish the day strong.
Sorry, you don't think you want to pile up on food again there after your female ski race, or a little bit too much running into the finals? I just thought there might be a fairly lengthy gap there.
Yeah, that was a good point. In terms of how much you eat, that'll be up to the individual athlete. My experience of carnivals, but that time of the day, my body, I'm just looking at water and really kind of trace simple stuff to snack throughout the rest of the day. Again, with refueling, etc., you're also putting more food into your body, so your body's not going to use all of that. So you think that you don't want to feel too loaded down with the food that the body is still digesting, right?
Towards the end of the day, though, you normally get a little bit anxious, especially running into finals. If you do have a reasonable gap there, it might be worthwhile trying to get something a bit more substantial. Not piling in too much, but just enough so that it can sort of hopefully get you through the 2 biggest races of the day.
No, that's a very good point. Absolutely. And this will, again, relate back to what does that individual athlete need. I know some athletes who need to eat when they get anxious, and I know athletes who cannot eat a thing when they get anxious. So whatever your body works, but 100%, ideally, you could keep fueling yourself, but just as long as your body tolerates it.
That's where it's good to know what foods work for you, so you can feel right eating on a banana or a Vegemite sandwich versus something which makes chicken burger from the shop might not do it for you.
That was a very good point. Avoid going to the chip wagon partway through your carnival. It's not the best option for your body, okay? So now that we have a bit of a plan and we've had practice going through a schedule, I encourage you all to sit down as athletes or as parents with your young athletes and do this for state. We have major carnivals coming up, and it's a great opportunity to plan out what you need to do to make sure you're fueled. Those of us going to the Australian titles, same thing. State could be a very good test trial run for that. We then have the Wanda Carnival, which is a full day with a big program that you can test it out again so you can hit Aussies running, right? So this is now in your toolbox, so you know how to schedule your nutrition, what to do, set it all up, etc. So going back in closing with our optimal health leading to optimal performance, again, hopefully we've highlighted more options for you with your nutrition and get a full idea. We know how to set ourselves up during long training sessions as well as during long competition days, okay? Now, again, with the idea of supplementation, we subject our bodies to a lot of stress as athletes. And even though we eat a well-balanced, proper, healthy diet, our bodies could still use a little bit of extra help, especially those individuals who have food sensitivities, be it celiac disease or who are vegetarian, lactose intolerance. These kind of things that have an impact on what we're allowed to eat or what we permit ourselves to eat is also going to impact the type of micronutrients, the vitamins and minerals that we get. So this is there are just a few, very, very few examples of what the benefits of supplementation are. Everything from better sleep, more managing on energy levels, less fatigue, to attention, being able to focus in school and at work, and these kind of things. It also really, really helps with body repair, muscle repair, okay? Generally, when we get supplements off the shelf, they either don't have enough of what we need or too much of what we don't need. So you're looking at vitamin C and calcium are pretty classic. They're great. When you get a supplement off the shelf, you get all you need. But we're missing things like the B vitamins, zinc, all of these other ones that are also very important, okay? So USANA, we've been mentioning them throughout the presentation. They're a health and wellness company that offer great products. Some of them we were talking about, they have bars and Nutrimeal, which are their macronutrient balanced shakes. Well, they also have a line of supplements. They start with their essentials. So it's a multivitamin as well as an antioxidant. Your vitamin C, vitamin E, B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, calcium. These kind of things that really help get your basic levels of what everyone needs. Then based on your own needs, they have what are called optimizers. Everything from more calcium to, they have one called a percosamine that I take. As a runner, there's a lot of stress going through all my joints, and I want to be able to lengthen my career as much as possible. So this specific one helps with joint repair and collagen repair. They also have fish oil tablets, as well as several other ones that really help different populations. So what they have is called a True Health Assessment. This will be posted, this link will be posted, available as always on the Maple Leaf Performance website, Facebook page. I would suggest you go and have a look. It'll give you an idea of what different stressors there are to your body, not only with exercise, but also pollution and driving a car and those mobile devices we all like sticking our faces into. From there, it'll give you kind of a suggestion of what supplements might help you. Lastly, USANA has an athlete guarantee program. They sponsor over 700 athletes worldwide, including the entire Women's Tennis Association, Biathlon Canada, speed skating bodies as well. Now, USANA has up to $1 million guarantee for their athletes. If anyone is caught testing positive on any of their supplements or their products, the USANA will reimburse them up to $1 million. So if these products are good enough and tested and that true for high-level athletes, they're absolutely a good option for our young athletes moving up.